Well, how do you do? It's September 21st. I'm Ezra Levant, and you're watching Battleground. I'm shocked that any of you are back. It looks like there's about 100 people watching now. I am surprised after the fiasco, the debacle of last week where we showed politicians dancing, including Jason Kenney doing a mating ritual, and where we saw my own epileptic seizure / dance moves whilst singing What Would the Fox Say. I was sure that our company would be suspended from YouTube for breaching our terms of service, for watching things, broadcasting things that literally make your eyes burn. For those of you who, I just assume that if you're watching today, it's because you weren't here last week. Can we bring up the Jason Kenney Caravana dance, just for those who don't recall? The NDP party of Alberta has a wicked opposition research team. They are brutal. And you've heard the rumors about Jason Kenney and his personal life. You've heard what they say, that the prim and proper conservative Jason Kenney is not the only Jason Kenney. And the NDP War Room sent me this video thinking I would use it to attack Jason Kenney. You know the one I'm talking about on the show right now.
He runs our city, and now he's going to run the late show with his dancing. Come on, Jason, defend it.
They say white men can't dance. They say that, and that may be a racist epithet, but let us acknowledge that it is true, at least in the case of Jason Kenney. And that other character there, was John Tory, perhaps the whitest man ever born, judging by his dance skills. You know, in some industrial areas, they have eye wash stations. We got one of those around here. All right, that was last week. We're never going to show that again, people. There are some things that are off limits, and Jason Kenney's dance moves, what he does in the privacy of a street party, is of no bearing on his ability to govern. And let's just leave it at that, okay? All right, 213 people are still watching. I don't know why, but you're here. I'm kidding around. This is called Battleground. I do this every weekday at 12 noon. I was just having some fun. We had some terrible dance moves last week. And I showed Jason Kenney, I showed John Tory, I showed Hillary Clinton, I showed Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, I showed Cynthia Nixon, who's running for high office in New York. You'd think she would have some dance moves. Nope, nope, nope. And then I ended it by showing you an atrocious video of myself. I will spare you that last and worst one now, because I actually have a few things I want to talk about. I used to do this Battleground show every single day at 12 noon, and I loved it, but my schedule just could not support it. I was traveling a fair bit, and in fact, can you get the TommyTrial.com website ready? Because for example, I'm going back to London. And if you put Tommy Trial on the screen, I've been to London, three times now? I can't remember. And I'm going back. I'm going back because Tommy Robinson is on trial again on Thursday of next week, September 27th. I guess you can't really see much here, but if you want more information, I have a video explaining what's going on. Last night I spoke to Tommy again, and they're not just bringing normal contempt of court charges against him, they're also claiming he broke the prohibition, the publication ban, and he sent me some snippets from a government document claiming he engaged in racism. That's a whole new thing. That's a whole new thing that wasn't there in his original contempt trial on May 25th. I foolishly and naively thought that perhaps the government of the United Kingdom had had enough in the quarrel with Tommy Robinson, And they had enough with having the massive street protests, and that perhaps they had some shame over the fact that they threw a man into solitary confinement, really in the dungeon of the prison. Tommy calls it the block. It's the dungeon. I thought they had enough. They have not had enough. And I thought the reason for delay was they just didn't want to engage. No. The reason for delay, and the hearing will proceed on September 27th, and I'll be there. I'm going to fly out there, is because they're going to expand the charges against Tommy Robinson. I haven't done a full proper video about that. I just learned about that yesterday on the phone. I did a little video and email yesterday when Tommy confirmed for me that September 27th was a go. But then later in the evening, he shared with me some snippets from the new charges against him. Let me say this again clearly. Forget the silliness about the dancing. I'm sorry I started with that. It was just on my mind. Tommy Robinson is back in court at the Old Bailey, that's the Central Criminal Courts of London, on Thursday the 27th. In addition to the original complaints that he was talking about the trial in a manner that prejudiced it, which is obviously not true. The trial was not prejudiced. It completed successfully. I have seen with my own eyes what Tommy sent me in the list, the litany of charges against him. They accuse him of racism. I don't have it in front of me, so I'm not going to quote it verbatim. They are expanding their allegations against him. Do you understand what I'm saying? They're not narrowing them. They are not chastened by the Court of Appeal. They are giving Tommy the full court press. It would not surprise me if there were more lawyers in court against Tommy this time as opposed to last time. That's what's going to happen. So I have to go back. Is there a single other journalist who's covering this properly? I put it to you, no. I put it to you that the last time I was in court, the Court of Appeal ruling, I think there were 8 other journalists there. I'm going from memory. None of them reported accurately. There was some live tweeting, but all the reports in the columns failed to report the massive win that Tommy Robinson had at the Court of Appeal. They failed to report the atrocious treatment of Tommy Robinson in prison. They preferred to snipe and be petty and gossipy about Tommy because they have a personal grudge and grievance against him. And I say, even if you disagree with Tommy, even if you were opposed to him for substantive reasons, ought you not to report accurately on a momentous Court of Appeal ruling in his favor? Should you not report that someone who was convicted as a civil prisoner for contempt of court was treated worse than a murderer? That's why I'm going back. And I say that to explain why I don't do this show daily, because I'm traveling too much and I have other obligations, but I enjoy the Fridays. What is Super Chat? Super Chat is a new invention by Google, YouTube. Started, I'm going to guess, 6 months ago. And it's, as you can see at the side of the screen, your comments are there. And I'm going to try and read through them. But if you chip in a few bucks, it's highlighted in a bright color, and the top of the screen, it's appended there, so everyone can see it, and I will see it out of the corner of my eye. I'm looking right now, and I don't see any right now, but if you make a super chat, I will for sure see it out of the corner of my eye and read it, and if I miss it, my producer friends will send it to me by email. All right, with that preamble aside, I have some videos I want to share with you. Some of them are lighthearted and some of them are grave. I don't suppose that's a very good mix, is it? I was starting off all jokey about Jason Kenney and John Tory's eye-burning dance moves. That's funny. I was having a little chuckle. And then I told you the most grave thing in the world. I spoke on, I talked to Tommy in different modalities. I talked to him by text. He sends me, he loves the video, the audio, he sends the audio, he sends it over by text. I love that. But we chatted because I couldn't believe it. He was sending me this news, and I said, I just got to call him. And we talked. I couldn't believe it. And I don't want to speak for him, and I don't want to betray confidences, but I must tell you that he is gripped by the gravity of it. I think he is, I wouldn't say he's surprised. Nothing surprises Tommy anymore. It's always a stitch up. And I'm always the one who's naive. I'm always the one who say, come on, Tommy, they surely wouldn't go that far. And he's just been around longer than me in this fight. So I'm always fooling myself, and I don't mean to be. I think I'm quite jaded and cynical in regards to the UK justice system. I shouldn't even say justice system. That's too positive a word. I'll call it the legal system or the court system. I actually thought they'd say enough is enough. 10 weeks of solitary is enough. How naive I am. So yeah, I'll be back there. That's serious stuff. I don't even want to jump from that to the lighthearted stuff now. Why don't I got some heavy stuff here. I'm going to read that because I don't feel like jumping back to a funny video right now. Because I swear to God, they're trying to put Tommy back in prison. That's what they're trying to do. That is crazy. Because of his Facebook live stream, I say again, and you know this, there hasn't been a journalist imprisoned in the UK for contempt of court since the 40s. Tommy's done 10 weeks in solitary. I see Ben Tomlinson chipped in $5. Hey, thanks very much. Have you seen Bernier's trolling QP, question period, on supply management? Yes, Ben, I have. And I should tell you, and just for people who don't know what that is, Maxime Bernier, a breakaway Conservative MP who started his own party called the People's Party, put a question to Parliament about supply management, which is a fancy way of saying the dairy cartel. In Canada, it's illegal just to start a dairy farm. You have to buy a quota. It's like the old taxi cab system. There's only a certain amount allowed, and because of that, prices for dairy in Canada are about twice normal. So it's really theft from poor people. If you're a rich person, spending double on a glass of milk or a piece of cheese, it's not going to hurt you. But if you're poor, you can't not have milk or other dairy. You just can't not do it. So it's really taking money out of the poorest people. Funny enough, can you Google this? Can you Google on CBC, Niagara Falls pizza? I know that sounds funny. If you Google those words, you'll get a story about a pizza smuggler. A cheese smuggler. You think, well, is that a joke? Oh, he's a cheese smuggler. Is that Is that like some sexual reference? He's a cheese smuggler. Oh, you like smuggling cheese, do you? You're one of them. No. Cheese smuggler. Yeah, this is the one. Thanks. Charges coming as Niagara cops add cheese to smuggling probe. Oh, a probe, eh? Oi, hey mate, your smuggling probe. I like the looks of your smuggling probe. No, it's not a sexual reference. Police roll suspected in border shipments of cheap pizza toppings. Scroll down. There's Mario's Pizza. The owner of Super Mario's Pizza in Port Colborne told CBC that he was approached 2 years ago by a Fort Erie man offering to supply cases of contraband U.S. cheese. Hey, my American and British friends, did you know there's such a thing as contraband cheese? Well, in Canada there is, because it's illegal cheese that's trafficked into the country. Let me read some more. Niagara Regional Police Service officers have been visiting pizzerias. That sounds like a great job. You know what? I think I'm ready for that job. I think I've been doing that job without a license, visiting pizzerias like all day. Niagara Regional Police officers have been visiting pizzerias recently. Yeah, me too, mate. Asking the same question, where did you get your cheese? Is that some sort of pickup? Is that some Tinder code word on Tinder or Grindr? Oi, mate, where you get your cheese? This is a cheese probe. You want to see my cheese probe? It's part of a larger internal investigation into cheese smuggling. Oh, you're just a cheese smuggler. You little cheese smuggler. Allegedly by some members of their own force. CBC News has learned from numerous police sources that charges are expected soon against a few officers who are alleged to have been involved in the movement of caseloads of cheese from the U.S. to sell to Canadian pizzerias and restaurants. The alleged scam involves jamming cases of brick cheese used as a common pizza topping into their vehicles to smuggle across the border, with U.S. cheese being as little as a third of the price it is in Canada. Drivers are making $1,000 to $2,000 a trip, according to numerous sources. Canada Border Services Agency officials say anyone, officer or civilian, caught smuggling large shipments of cheese into Canada would be in violation of the Customs Act for failing to declare, I do declare, I love the cheese. I'm not going to read any more, but I want to let you know this is not a satirical website. Scroll up to the top just for a second. This is actually the state broadcaster who lures the dairy cartel. This is a real story. I know you're thinking that ain't true. This is true. In Canada, cheese is so expensive, border town like Niagara Falls. You know there's no, okay, you take it down, thanks. You know Niagara Falls, there's a Niagara Falls, New York, and there's a Niagara Falls, Ontario, right? Like it's a border. It's two different towns. It's really the same metropolis, I guess you could say. So a pizzeria on the New York side buys cheap cheese pizzeria on the Canadian side has to buy dairy cartel triple the price cheese. And it's such a difference that people are smuggling bricks of cheese in their police cars to make $1,000 a load of cheese. And the cops are getting into it. You know, New York City has problems with cops, you know, in the drug trade. New York City has problem with cops on the payroll of the mafia. No, we got our Canadian problems, mate. Our cops smuggle cheese. That's the truth. Ben Tomlinson, good story. We'll cover it on my channel. Thanks, Ben. Anyhow, the end of that story is that Maxime Bernier called for the removal, the end of the dairy cartel, and he was unanimously opposed in Parliament. That means not just the Liberals and the NDP were against him, but his former colleagues in the Conservative Party. I see a couple more super chats. Thank you very much. Dan L. chips in $5. Thanks, Dan. Do you believe the mainstream media that the Danforth shooting was not Islamic terror, or are the media and police suppressing info like in Germany? Well, Dan, it's like you're reading my mind. In fact, on tonight's show at 8 p.m., I will go into depth about the police filing an ITO, an information to obtain. It's basically a document police file in court to get a search warrant. And we see facts in that police search warrant request that smash the mainstream media narrative into a million pieces. And I don't want to get into it in great detail now, but you will see it tonight on my show. And if you're not a subscriber to my 8 p.m. show, well, you should be. And if I haven't convinced you just by telling you, I can tell you that every day after my show, we take a 2-minute excerpt and put it up for free on YouTube. So you'll see it there. Mike Levine, Ezra, is making arrangements with you beforehand to handle his legal case in case he's incarcerated again and can't communicate. Oh, okay, you're talking about Tommy. I don't want to give away our secret strategies, but you know, it's ironic that Tommy, I don't want to get into this whole thing before. You've heard me say this before. I met Tommy online. We chatted by Skype. We hired him a year and a half ago. And he did videos for us, and I actually didn't even meet him until I flew to London after the Westminster terror attack, and we met him, we met the team, and we got going. And it's hard to stay in touch with someone across an ocean, you know, 5 time zones away. And, you know, phone works and stuff like that. He was not a big email guy. And so I would fly out there about once a month. And it's, as I've said before, Tommy's he's not built for having a boss, right? So it lasted about a year. It was great. And we said goodbye. And it was amicable enough. There is such a thing as an amicable breakup, by the way. But it's never great, you know? So we said goodbye. And I wished him well. And we had a studio that we had some prepaid rent and stuff. We gave that to him. We gave him some equipment. And we said goodbye. We tried to end friendly enough. And then we were sort of thrown back together when he was jailed because I didn't feel like other folks were stepping in to help. And I had a few skills and tools, the crowdfunding, whatever. And I never communicated with him directly in prison. I don't know if I ever told you that. I was in touch with Tommy, but here's how it would go. I went to the website called emailaprisoner.com. That's the real thing. And you can send an email to any prisoner in the UK. Isn't that neat? It's great, and it's just a few cents. And they get it printed out. And in some prisons, they can reply, not the one Tommy was in. So I would send emails to Tommy, and he would get, I think he had 2 phone calls a week. So obviously he's not going to waste that on me. And so he would talk to his wife, and his wife would pass on the message to me. Isn't that a circuitous way of talking? I'd send an email, but I knew that the guards were reading the emails. So I was very limited in what I put in the email. And Tommy would more or less figure it out and tell us. So that's how I communicated with him for 2.5 months. I didn't say a word to him directly, and he didn't say a word to me directly. I later joked it was the only time he read my emails from start to finish, and it was the only time I never had any talk back from him. I've told you that joke before. But my point is, we managed to make it work. And of course, we've been in pretty constant touch since he's been out. And the irony is that we're closer now than when he worked here. Isn't that weird? Life is funny that way. We've had some interesting alumni pass through here at the Rebel. And I'm not just going to reminisce now, but it is sort of, I wouldn't have thought when we said goodbye to him, whatever that was, 6 months ago, that I'd actually be this focused on him. But it's not just because, I mean, I think he's an interesting character, but it's because he's still in jeopardy. But more than that, the system has revealed itself in how it's treated him. And I say this to people who don't have much time for Tommy. I say this to people in parts of UKIP who don't have time for Tommy. I said, put aside your personal antipathy towards him. Put aside the parts about him that bug you. Put aside the actual flaws he has, and he has plenty. Just try and compartmentalize that for 1 minute with the flaws that he has revealed in the British system, the UK system, about what Daniel Pipes called the 5P professionals, the police, the prosecutors, the press, the politicians, the professors. Sometimes Daniel Pipes adds in priests. What has Tommy's case said about the judge and how quickly he was sentenced and sent away for contempt of court? What has Tommy Robinson's case shown us about the media that rejoiced in his political prisonership? What has all this taught us about so many things? So you don't have to say, I love Tommy, now let me tell you what's wrong with the system. You can actually say, I hate Tommy, but look what we've learned. And that's my point. And we're not out of the woods yet. In fact, my conversation with Tommy last night about these new particulars in the charges against him was actually the most scared I have been since Tommy was released on August 1st. By that I mean, I realize only now the true gravity of the case that will be presented against him on Thursday. I'm going to London. Because I'll tell you why. I mean, it's not a pleasant flight for me. You put a fat guy on a plane for 7 hours, there and back, that's not my natural habitat, you know. Wedge me in the middle seat between two pitiful souls. Imagine me in fact, my last flight to London, there were two gals who were traveling to a conference together, and they had the aisle seat and the window seat, and I was wedged in between them, sort of like a muffin, you know. And I said, ladies, would you like to switch so you're sitting next to each other? I thought, thinking that would be doing them a favor. They could sit next to each other, and I could either like lean against the window or spill out into the aisle with all my 1/8 of a ton of wonderfulness. There's a lot of me to love. I'm pleasantly plump. And they said, no, we're fine. And I thought, well, is either they didn't want to give up the aisle or the window, or they didn't want to sit next to each other, even though they were traveling together to a conference. So yeah, it's not a natural thing to put a fat guy in a thin seat 7 hours overnight, and then come home that same night, 14 hours, to cover a trial. But can you tell me who else is? I love Breitbart.com. You know that, because I have Breitbart pundits on my show at least once a week. But Breitbart didn't cover the trial. I don't know why. There are other conservatives in the UK. I follow a site called Westmonster. Why weren't they at the trial? There's a Spectator. There's some pundits. Why weren't any of them there? I'm not being mean to them. I love Breitbart. You know that. I love Breitbart. I have them on the show all the time. But why weren't they there covering it? I don't know. And the media who were there, for the mainstream media, they were there to attack. They were there to bury, not to praise. So that's why I'm going back there. And I'm actually worried about this trip very much. Maybe I shouldn't say that. Maybe I should be very extremely confident and everything's going to be fine. They're coming to, I was about to swear, they're coming to kill him. Do I mean that metaphorically? Yes, but I also mean that if they put him back into prison, he just might be killed. Okay, let me go forward. Did I miss any super chats? All right. Well, look, it's 12:23. I'm still in a heavy mode. I'm going to read some regular chats. I see Dan L. Will Marrisa Shen's murder by a Trudeau Syrian migrant and the PM's heartless reaction affect Chinese Canadians' traditional support for the Liberals? Well, thank you very much, Dan. That's actually one of the other videos I have here. And some of our viewers who are not from Canada, Tommy's an international figure. So I know when I talk about Tommy, our UK viewers understand it, our American viewers, our Australian people, and our Canadians. And of course, he was a rebel staffer for a year, so people know that. But Marrisa Shen, who's that? Well, we have a little video, and we just made this little video that sums it up. And so can we play our little Marrisa Shen video?
I am more than comfortable that doing what we've done, accepting in 25,000 Syrian refugees, does right by both the safety of Canadians and by the values that define us as a nation.
Would you be just as comfortable if there was a terrorist attack carried out by someone who came through as a refugee?
Ultimately, being open and respectful towards each other is much more powerful as a way to diffuse hatred and anger than layering on big walls and oppressive policies.
Some people say that if it hadn't been for the surge in Syrian refugees after the 2015 election, guys like this guy would not be here.
I'm not one of those people who says that.
A life got terminated at 13 years old. And where's the leader? We are here, yes. We demand the Prime Minister to apologize.
So that's a little short video we did. We've done longer videos on it too. And what's interesting, and to your question, will this breach the friendship between Justin Trudeau and the Chinese-Canadian community? Well, first of all, I don't believe that the Chinese-Canadian community has a natural affiliation to the Liberal Party. Now, when Liberals open the doors to new immigrants are often, just out of personal loyalty, grateful to the party in power when they were let in. But of course, that party was Stephen Harper's Conservatives for a decade. And I put it to you that Chinese Canadians, if I may stereotype the culture, are not those that you would traditionally think would be susceptible to liberal promises. The Chinese Canadian community is very hardworking, so it's my sense that they're not interested in welfare mooching, for example. They're very law-abiding. I'm stereotyping here, obviously there's exceptions. So they're not interested in the soft-on-crime liberal policies. Chinese Canadian community values family. So they're not into this liberal policy, transgender this, six gender, sex ed that. They're just not into the kind of welfare state, identity politics pandering. I mean, they have an identity, but I just don't see the Chinese Canadian community being a natural, whiny, entitlement community. Now, of course, there's always examples. You can't stereotype more than 1 million people. But what's so interesting here is that the conservative side of the Chinese community has come out because, first of all, this is a murder, so it's crime, soft on crime. But also, this is one of Trudeau's Syrian migrants. And every Chinese person in Canada came here, again, I'm not stereotyping every single one, but in the main, they applied to come here. They didn't sneak across the border like these illegals are doing in New York State, and they weren't brought here in a hasty rush, unvetted from a war zone like Trudeau's Syrians. So you're seeing, and you saw that in that Chinese Canadian man in that little short video there. Why have you done this to us, Justin Trudeau? Why are you not showing sympathy with our community? Why are you not apologizing? So we had so many Chinese Canadians who responded positively to our video. We made a video with Chinese captions on it, and we published. Actually, do you want to go to apologize now? Just show the website itself, not the video. So we made a page in Chinese language, and we checked it twice to make sure we had the translation correct. Just put out apologize now is the name of the site because, yeah, scroll down. Justin Trudeau must apologize. Look at this website. Yeah, keep scrolling. I want to show all those Chinese characters. Look at all that. That is good rebel content, Chinese style. Scroll to the super top because I think, yeah, you see that? Look up, super top, even higher. Look at that. You see that? There's a Chinese language ad up there. Tell me that's not super fun. Because when you put a Chinese language website up, the internet serves up a Chinese language ad, of course. Tell me that's not one of the funnest pages on the rebel.media. It absolutely is. So that's my very lengthy answer, but it's a terrible situation. It's a murder of a young girl. Is there anything worse than that? When parents bury their own children, that's a sign that the world has gone mad. And Justin Trudeau just doesn't give a damn. Let's check the time here. It's 12:30. I was reading some more of the chat, some interesting comments all along the way. Graham Quinn chips in £5, 5 quid. Thanks, bruv. What about Tommy joining UKIP? Do you know anything? Yeah, can you call up? I see Nigel made a statement just yesterday. Can you get the vid of Nigel Farage? And I think he exercises a great amount of control in the UKIP party, even though he's no longer its leader. He was adamant against it. Now, Gerard Batten, the leader, has said he wants to let the grassroots decide. But Nigel Farage has said that would be a grave mistake. And Tommy himself has made a video saying it would be a great opportunity. So can we serve up the video? I saw it just today, I think on the website of The Independent, but it's everywhere. Nigel Farage. And then as soon as that's done, can we call up Tommy's video from about 2 weeks ago where he talks about joining UKIP? So let's show Farage first. All right, let's try that again when we got the sound. So he was, I can see the sound was muted there, so we got to unmute that thing there. He said he specifically has taken great steps over the years to ensure that people who have, quote, okay, let's play it now, go ahead.
I'm not a Tommy Robinson fan. I think he's a bit of a lout, but I do think he should be allowed to have his say. I do think in a society that believes in free speech, provided he is not promoting outright hatred or violence, he should be able to say what he wants to say. So, does something need to be done? Well, I think this is too important for something not to be done. There's no debate with me. I'm completely opposed to it. You know, I was, back in the 90s, I was chairman of UKIP, I was then the national campaign manager of UKIP, I became, in the end, the leader of UKIP back in 2006, and I wrote very explicitly into the rules of the party when I first became leader, we did not want anybody in the party who had taints with organisations that we deemed to be on the far right of British politics. I couldn't have been clearer, and it really upsets me.
So there you have it, Nigel Farage saying no. I see a comment from Ted C, £1.99 to help flight for Tommy, a big thank you. Well, thank you very much. Do we have Tommy's vid? We don't need to, it's just on the Tommy Robinson YouTube homepage. I don't want to play the whole thing. He basically, why don't you find the part where he says, you might lose a couple thousand members, but you'd bring in 20,000 working class people and energize the party. I just want to show that in Tommy's own words. So it's very easy to find. Just go to the Tommy Robinson YouTube channel, and then it's probably the second most recent video or the most recent video there. So I understand Nigel Farage. He has enough of an uphill battle already trying to get the UK out of the EU. To add another layer, another dimension of controversy on top of that would make his life harder, that's for sure. But this goes to what I said earlier. Is there no one in the UK who will fight? Yeah. I hear in my ear that we're ready. Yeah, that's the one. Can you fast forward to the part where he says you might lose 2,000 members, but you'll find 20,000? Let me know when we have that. That's my point about a fat Canadian flying 7 hours each way to report in London. It's actually sort of pitiful. I mean, I think I'm doing an okay job. I'll let you be the judge of that. I mean, I try and pay attention in court. I try and be prolific. When I was there during the Court of Appeal hearing, I know I tweeted 150 times from court, and I did a bunch of videos outside, and according to my Twitter analytics, they were seen 5.7 million times. So I feel like I'm working hard, but I'll leave the judgments to others. My point is, where's the rest of the army? We could use people now. You know, I have some friends in the U.S. I even said this. In fact, when I'm off this, I'm going to say to Gavin. I talked to Gavin. Speaking of alumni, I still talk to my buddy Gavin McInnes probably once a week, by text. Sometimes I go on a show, vice versa. Not that often by phone. If I was him, you know, flights from New York to Heathrow, there's got to be 100 flights a day. Like in New York, there's so many airports. There's LaGuardia, there's JFK, there's Newark, there's so many airports. And there's actually several airports in London, right? There's Heathrow, there's Gatwick not far away, there's even Luton, there's the City Airport. So many airports, so there's so many flights. In fact, I can imagine how many flights there are between New York and London. And there's some cheap flights. You want a cheap flight? I bet you could fly New York to London and return for $500. And get an Airbnb for a couple $100. Gavin should go. As soon as I'm off this show, I'm going to tell him that. First of all, I'd like some company out there. But why isn't, like, Stephen Crowder should go. Maybe that's not his beat. Maybe he doesn't have a rapport, but Gavin should go. Who else should go? I think that more people should go. I give a shout out to Tucker Carlson because he had Tommy on his show, and obviously Tucker's not going to go to London for a trial, but maybe someone from Fox should. Anyhow, so that's my view. Here's a quick clip of Tommy saying what would happen if he was allowed to join UKIP.
Now, UKIP have the opportunity to electrify this country's working class. I've seen people make comments that, oh, if Tommy Robinson joined UKIP, they might lose 2,000 members. You might gain 20,000. You might cause a political revolution in Britain. We have sat for too long, and we get excited in this country. Sweden's elections are coming up. We get excited about watching the election in Sweden. The Swedish Democrats, good luck to you. We're hand on heart, we want the best for Sweden. May get 30% of the vote. We get excited about the Italian election. It's about time the British public had a party they can get excited about. And I applaud Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage concentrated on Brexit, and he deserves the applause for bringing us Brexit. Nigel wasn't prepared to talk about Islam. And maybe because he didn't want to drain himself, and he didn't want the accusations and the problems it will bring. And he wanted to concentrate on his focus, which was Brexit, and well done for that. But please don't try and condemn other people who are brave enough to challenge this. I've watched and I've met Gerard Batten, and I want to say a thank you to UKIP, to Gerard Batten, for speaking up on my behalf, for reaching out to the people of this country, for going and mixing it with the general people on the street in this country. I've stood and I listened to Gerard Batten, and that is...
All right, I won't play the whole thing here. Obviously, you can get that on Tommy's website. First of all, don't you think Tommy's very thoughtful and reflective on the thing? I was very impressed with his ability to remove his personal feelings from the assessment. First of all, I think he's accurate that it would energize UKIP. I think he's right when he says tens of thousands of new people would join. And I think he's also very thoughtful when he says he understands absolutely why Nigel Farage was focused on one thing and one thing only, Brexit. Absolutely. I thought that was very wise. Don't you think that shows a wisdom and, frankly, a lack of brittleness? A lack of sensitivity? I mean, I guess if you're Tommy Robinson, you can't afford to let your feelings get hurt at every slight. You got to have a hide as thick as an armadillo. I mean, because you're getting pricked all the time. So yeah, I thought that was good. Cat Girl says Tommy is very bright. Exactly. You know what? I'm impressed every time I talk with him. He's sophisticated arguments, very thoughtful. He comes up with pockets of knowledge or ideas that always, I think, well, Tom, where did you get that? Well, he's a thinking man. He's a thinking man. I don't actually know if he had a formal education, but he's very thoughtful. Very thoughtful. Miss Lil Peg says, Nigel equals bulldog, Tommy equals lion. UK needs a lion at this time. Well, I use the phrase the last lion. That's how I sometimes describe Tommy, and I say the government wants to put that lion in a cage. I think your lion bulldog, I think that's great. I might borrow that. Wayne Johnson, join for Britain. Well, the thing is, can you avoid the splitism? That's my point. Okay. You know what? I'm just scrolling through the comments. If you want me to read your comment, just put it in highlight, and I'll read. And the good thing, I don't know if I told you this time, but the fun thing about the super chat is we get, I think it's 70% of the dose. So if you want to help the rebel, you chip in a couple pounds, couple quid, whatever, a couple dollars, and we get 70% of that. It's not a ton, but it helps pay the bills. Let's check. It's 12:40. We're 2/3 of the way through. I want to shift gears now. I feel like we're out of the heavy-duty sad stuff, so I want to talk to you. Do we have a still image of the meme of Salt Bae? There's this guy. He's just got this outrageous style, and he's being memed. You know what I mean by that. He's on all these little Facebook images and Twitter images, putting salt on steaks, and he's got this goofy nickname because of that, Salt Bae. And he sort of has this move. He takes the salt and he puts his arm like that, and just show the meme of Salt Bae so people know what I'm talking about. And he's a guy who has a chain of restaurants. There we go. And he's sort of hip, and he's looking sort of cool, and he has that move where he throws salt on things. So that little image there, which is sort of funny, there's like a gazillion, but he's a real guy, and he has a chain of steakhouses in Turkey, of all places. And he's an over-the-top showman, and he does all these moves. You know, have you ever been to a Benihana's or something like that, where you sit around the big cooking thing, and they put on a bit of a show. They chop up things, and they cook it in front of you, and it's part of the fun. And they're sort of, I'm not going to say they're actors, but they're dramatic. Like they make a big noise chopping, and they flip some knives around a little bit. It's a hoot. I think Salt Bae, as he's nicknamed, is the Benihana's of Turkish restaurants, but about at twice the price point. Anyways, I follow about 5 different Venezuela Liberty Twitter feeds. What I mean by that is I follow Venezuelans in Miami. That's an excellent Twitter feed. If you're curious about getting the truth about Venezuela, obviously you're not going to get it from Venezuela because it has an authoritarian regime that limits free speech. But there's a lot of Venezuelans in Miami, sort of an expat community, just like there's a lot of Cuban expats, and they are very active. And if you're curious at all about Venezuela, just sign up to, I just want to get the right name of this, and I'm going to have my producer friends put it on TV, because I'd love it if you guys, Venezolanos, I just want to get it right. Okay, I'm not going to waste time doing it right now, but I follow an account, Venezolanos, and Miami. That's the one. Thank you. That's the one. Just scroll down a bit. So these, as you can see, these are Venezuelans in Miami. Thanks for finding that. And you can see, if you want, and oh, stop. Oh, go back up. Go back up. Do you see that video there? That's what I was going to show you. Okay, let's show the one on the right, and then hold this one. I want to come back to this Venezolanos and Miami. I can't do the accent. Let's go to the Salt Bae one and have my sound up so I can talk. Okay, so this is Hugo Chavez's successor, Nicolas Maduro. There's Salt Bae. There's Salt Bae. He's got the look, and look, he's got he's thrusting the pelvis. He's putting on a show, and then he's doing some chop, and I don't know if that's lamb or what that is. And he's cutting it, and then there's Nicolas Maduro, fat like me, and there's Salt Bae behind them, and he's got the t-shirts, he's got a cigar. Keep rolling this to the very end. And there's Salt Bae looking like a toiger, wearing his sunglasses indoors, low-cut shirt, showing them pecs, and he's with the tyrant of Caracas. Now, I'm not mad at Salt Bae. You're in Turkey, you're living under a bit of an authoritarian regime. Okay, and this is his private cigar humidor with those cigars. I don't know where those are. Are those Cohiba Esplendidos, $100 a pop? I don't know. And look at this armed guard. Look at the armed guards there. All these guys have submachine guns. Look at this gorgeous restaurant. But look at that. Look at this guy. He's got a submachine gun. Doesn't that look like a gorgeous steakhouse? Like, you're not getting out of there for less than $100 American a plate. And there's that fat, and the only reason why I call him fat, A, I'm fat too, but B, because his own people are starving. There's Salt Bae, look at Toya, you got the little man bun, ponytail, cool, sunglasses. Now, can you go back to the Venezolanos on Miami, and can you blow that up to full size? Is it possible to do that? I just want to, see, they're very clever, the Venezuelans in Miami. Go back to that Twitter image where on the right they're showing super fat Nicolas Maduro, Hugo Chavez's illegitimate, undemocratic, and then on the left there, Venezuelans literally digging for scraps of food in a dumpster while Salt Bae, don't tell me that piece of meat is less than $200 and the fans, you know, did you know that the average Venezuelan has lost 18 pounds from malnutrition in the last year? You know how hard it is to lose 18 pounds? If you're fat like me, you know it's almost impossible. Imagine losing it not by choice, but from starvation. That's what Venezuela is like. While they're fat, and I'm calling them fat because you can call him fat. Can you call up the YouTube shot of where he takes a sandwich out of his drawer on live TV? Just YouTube search Maduro sandwich desk. So they're starving there. Hundreds of thousands of Venezuelans are fleeing to neighboring Colombia just to eat. They go into the zoos and kill the animals and eat them. There are no dogs or cats on the street. They're eaten. This is a place with literally the largest oil reserves in the world, more than Saudi Arabia, more than Canada's oil sands. The largest oil reserves in the world. It's actually similar in viscosity to Canadian oil sands, so it's very similar. So there he is. He's doing a lot. Look at that. He's doing this live broadcast, and he reaches into his desk drawer for a bite of an empanada, because look at that fat. So he's even fatter than me. I'm 200. I weighed myself this morning, 238. I think he's 260. I think he's 260, and he can't wait through a live national broadcast. Roll that from the beginning, because it's so. I want to let you know that's not just him. He's doing a live national broadcast, and he can't wait 10 minutes. He's got an empanada in his desk. Okay, thanks. The reason I'm showing you that is he's starving his own people. He's sneaking empanadas from his desk, and he's going to Salt Bae's, and I'm not against Salt Bae, and you live in Turkey, you're going to have a lot of tyrants pass through. And I don't blame the guy for putting on a show. That's what you do. You're a restaurateur, you're not a politician. It would be weird, actually, to say, get out. I mean, I wouldn't want Nicolas Maduro in any place I have to do business with, but that's because I'm political. I don't blame Salt Bae for having Maduro come through. But that's so gross, and those armed guards outside, just the perfect touch to protect the food so that Maduro can have all the food. Lauren Southern, Ezra, how tall are you? See, I don't mind telling you I weighed in at 238, and that's the triple truth, by the way. Now, I did have an extremely heavy t-shirt and underwear on, probably added 10 pounds, plus my glasses. These things are about 20 pounds. So I think in real life I'm about a deuce. You know? But when you ask how tall I am, see, that's the thing. I like to say I'm not overweight, I'm under tall. Duh. I'm not overweight. I'm just, you know, the right weight for a guy who's like 6'9" or something. And since you asked, I'm going to answer you. Well, maybe not. Maybe that kind of personal, deeply personal information should only be told to someone who chips in $2 for a super chat. Jonathan L., can you please talk about how many Canadian jobs are at risk if the NAFTA negotiations are done wrong? So you don't want me to talk about how much I weigh anymore? You saying? Okay. Well, listen, I have my own political opinions, but why don't we ask Scotiabank, TD Bank, and the National Bank of Canada. Those are all three of the senior banks in this country, and all of them have done economic scenarios forecasting what would happen if Donald Trump does indeed carry through on his threats to put a 20% tariff on Canadian autos. And the short answer is 160,000 direct jobs in Canada would be lost. 160,000. And that's just direct. So how many jobs support that jobs? Tell us your height, okay? You gave a super chat. You called me on my bluff. And the answer is 160,000 direct jobs, but who's kidding who? It'll be a snowball effect because all sorts of other jobs that support those jobs would cross the border too. We know for a fact that the banks say it would cause a recession in this country, and I think it would cause our dollar to plunge, well, maybe 20%. So maybe you'd be looking at a 60-cent dollar. All right, Ingrid K. Warner chips in $2 and says, tell us your height. That is not a simple answer. I know, well, it's just a number. Say the number. All right. My whole life I thought I was 5'8.5". But I always said 5'9" because it made me feel better. Then I was applying for life insurance. And they sent a nurse to my house with her scale to weigh me and her measurement to measure my height. Because they don't trust you, right? If you've got, like, if you want life insurance, especially if you're old and fat like me, they want to see, okay, what are the goods? We got this guy, you know? So this nurse who was representing the insurance company, maybe I shouldn't say this in public, said, and she's working for the insurance company, she's not working for me, right? She's the opposite of working for me. If she's serving the insurance company's interests, she'll put down I'm super fat and super short, right? You get where I'm coming from here? She said I was 5'10". My whole life I thought I was 5'8.5", and I sort of lied by saying I was 5'9". I thought, like, so I didn't talk about it. Now I'm not short. People don't say, who's the shorty? They would more say, who's chubby, right? They're not going to say who's short. But when that nurse left that day and said I was 5'10" for realsies, for real, oh my God, I strutted like a peacock. I strutted like a Justin Trudeau. I thought, I'm 5'10". That is just this much less than 6 feet, people. That's like 6 foot minus 2 is how I described it. How tall are you? I'm 6 foot minus 2. Did you say you're 6'2"? No, I'm 6 foot minus 2. Because when you're 5'10", you can say things like that. And all of a sudden, yeah, everything looks a little shorter. I have a different vantage point. If you want me to, I could be a weatherman. I could find out if it's raining slightly before you. I can see just slightly further than you. And maybe I'm just slightly better than you. I wouldn't say, I'll let you say that about me. But being 5'10" changed my whole worldview. It gave me a confidence. Strutting around. That's your answer, Ingrid K. Warner. That's your answer. All right, let's check if there's anyone, and is there anyone even watching anymore? Is there anyone even watching? Anybody? No, everyone's gone. You didn't like that 6 foot minus 2 inches thing? All right, well, if anyone's still there, Ben Tomlinson, Ezra is like 5'9", Manning something conference 2003. It's true, I am 5'9". I don't think I'm 5'8", and I'm pretty sure I'm not 5'10". But for one day, I told everybody. It was like I was a vegan. It was like I was on a new gluten-free diet. There was no one I met that next day who did not learn. I was 5'10", people. Nigel, 2 pounds. Search Google News, Jeremy Bamber, The Guardian. All right, I'll bite. Jeremy Bamber, Guardian. Okay? All right, you see, you do a super chat. Scientists report cast doubt on Jeremy Bamber trial evidence. Lawyers for man convicted of murdering his family say vital evidence is undermined. Notorious multiple murders. Okay, thank you for this news tip. I am completely unfamiliar with this subject, and it's 12:54. I don't propose that I try and learn in real time about it, but I appreciate you bringing it to my attention. I've Googled it, and I'll look at it. I don't know if there's a political angle there. I'm generally politically focused. If there's a crime or something went wrong, that's interesting, but I'm just unfamiliar with it. David Anderson, thank you for your $25 chip in. I still say you are shorter than me, Ezra, but give Tommy Robinson my best. Well, See, isn't that funny? I mean, the phrase Napoleon complex, because Napoleon was notoriously short, right? I'm just going to Google that, Napoleon height wiki. Let's see what it says. Does Wikipedia? Well, they say he has been cited as being anywhere from 5'2" to 5'7". Now remember, people were a little shorter back then because of malnutrition. If Napoleon was 5'2", he would be pretty short. But remember, your average guy back then wouldn't have been like this whole 5', 8 foot, like giants like me, like towering specimens of masculine humanity like me in Salt Bay. Like if I could just, like there's all you other guys and then there's me in Salt Bay kind of thing. So towering specimens of humanity like me in Salt Bay, that's a new phenomenon. You didn't see, like this kind of peak performance, you didn't see in the past because of malnutrition. So back then, your average Frenchman, probably close to 5'3", 5'4" kind of thing. So if Napoleon really was 5'2", he would have been a short fella. And there probably would have been some justification to the short man, inferiority complex, Napoleon complex, I'm short, so I have to overcompensate, right? And that turned him into an emperor who conquered much of Europe and parts of Africa and the Middle East. There are short people who have a commanding presence, and I don't think it's necessarily because they're short. Oliver, oh my God, I just forgot his name, not Oliver Stone. Who's the U.S. military, Oliver, I just forgot his name. Colonel Oliver North. I forgot that. Oliver North, I'm told, was short. And he would command people who were like 6 foot. He would command guys like monsters like me in Salt Bay. And he was short. And I remember seeing someone said, I didn't realize until this group shot of us and Oliver North how small he was because he was such a towering presence, such a charismatic, powerful force. And I think that's true, isn't it? How you perceive someone's height, it's not just how tall or short they are, it's their charisma, their leadership qualities, don't you think? I mean, that's sort of obvious. And it was just, Oliver North came to mind because I remember first hearing someone say, I didn't realize what a shorty he was until I saw a picture of us, because in my mind he was always taller than me. This is from one of those giants that bestride the earth like me in Salt Bay. So here's the secret about Tommy Robinson. He's short. Now he's not Napoleon short, but I'm guessing he's 5'7". I'm just going to whisper that because I don't want too many people. He's 5'7". But you wouldn't know it because of the charisma and the energy and the courage. That's my point. So tall guys like me, like a toiler, like guys like me, we really like to lord it over the little people, as we call the rest of you. But no, Tommy, that's a perfect example of courage and energy. I would bet if you had to guess how tall Tommy is, you'd probably say 6 footer, like you, Ezra. Okay, we're almost out of time. It's 12:58. A few super chats. Justin Phillips, I'm 6 foot tall and 210 pounds. Yeah, okay, so you're just barely taller than me, and you're just a teeny tiny bit lighter than me, so I could take you. Keith McIntosh, $5. And the length of your toadstool, asking for a friend. Well, I tell you one thing, it's going to take a lot more than a $5 super chat for that. And I'm not saying a $50 super chat would get that kind of personal information, because who do you think, what do you take me for, sir? I'm shocked that you would ask such a question. $50 super chat and you'll get the answer. And then we just, Mike Levine, Ezra, have you covered Le Meute in Quebec, and do you think they have Maxime's ear? I've only heard of Le Meute. I have not covered them, and perhaps we should cover them some more. I don't want to give an opinion on them because I simply just don't have enough facts. And by the way, if you're doing research on Le Meute or any far-right organization in Quebec, you can't rely on the mainstream media. You can't rely on CBC because, they're a pack of liars. The same way they lie about the Rebel, of course they're going to lie about Le Meute, even more because Quebec is less politically correct, so they're more effective. All right, folks, guess what? It's 1 p.m., and I see there's still 3 people watching now. So the talk about toadstools and other things like that didn't scare everyone away. There's still 4. There's 4 viewers there, and 2 are the producers here. So thanks, guys. And I'm watching. So those are 3. So there's someone else. So I would like to say to my audience, thank you, sir. Probably someone just left their computer open and just went to the other room or something. But if there is someone watching out there right now, thanks, man. That's it for today. I'm kidding around. Listen, I'm just being very, very silly. And these battlegrounds turn very silly. I have no idea why. See, because they're always on Fridays. Because I just get in a silly mood, and I don't want to just talk about heavy things, like starving Venezuelans and Tommy going back to prison. It's okay that I joke around a little bit. I try to, for every joke I make about someone else, I try and make the same joke about myself. Is that okay? So that's what we do here on Fridays. If you want more serious stuff, I have a deathly serious story for you tonight at 8 p.m. on my regular show. It's about the mass shooting in Toronto that left 2 women dead and more than a dozen injured. So if you want heavy stuff, come back tonight. This was a little lighthearted, and I apologize for that, but only slightly. All right, folks, until next time, on behalf of all of us here at Rebel World Headquarters, to you at home, keep fighting for freedom. Bye-bye.